okay. I'm supposed to like walk when I do vlogs because it helps me ramble less. Like I'm actually clearer when I walk, but I am so tired right now that I just can't even do like a leisurely stroll while talking to you guys. Today is Monday. I fought on Friday, so fought Friday night. Didn't really sleep. Kevin and I got up very early the next morning and drove from Chiang Rai down to Chiang Mai, which is like a 3.5 hour drive, to catch a plane back to Pattaya. We got home at like 11:30, almost 12, something like that, and just kind of laid around most of the day. I got a little bit of like housework stuff done, but a rest day. No sleep. Rested on Sunday, which was really nice, and so like travel day, rest day, and I'm back at training today. It's Monday. I'm tired, like my body, like physically my body is really tired. Like when I was sparring with Yod Kunpan this morning, it's that like when your limbs burn out, like I don't know if you guys have done like lots and lots of punching or clinching or something like this, where like literally your muscles burn out and you just can't hold them up and they're not going to do what you ask them to do. It was like that from like round 1, and we spar for at least 10 rounds, so it was rough. It was really, really hard sparring with Yod Kunpan this morning. But if you're watching this and you've watched me for any amount of time at all, or if you're new, don't tell me to rest. I won't listen to you. It's the worst advice to give me, because not only will I not follow it, but it kind of pisses me off too. I know when to rest and I know when not to. I would be resting right now if I felt like I needed to. Going back to training to me was important in terms of like, I was really disappointed in myself in this fight, like painfully disappointed in my performance in this fight, because it's been 7 months since I was in the ring last. So my last fight was in March, and then now is October that I fought again. Again, if you guys know me or have been following me for longer than that, you know that in a 7-month period of time, I usually have 14 fights at least. I had 0. So it was good to get back in the ring, but I also had, I think, unfair and unrealistic expectations for myself about how much of the work that I've been doing in those 7 months would make it into the ring with me. This has kind of been the story of my career, is like trying to bring things that I do in training into the ring with me. Initially, the reason I started fighting at all, I started Muay Thai and never thought of fighting. When I first started Muay Thai, I just thought it was beautiful. Like I wanted to make my body do those things, like how you would, you know, bring your daughter to ballet or something, not to become a like actual, you know, dance company ballerina or something, but just to learn the art. But after learning with Master K for about a year, I felt like unless you can do those movements under pressure, you really can't do them at all. Like you really don't know anything unless you can do it under pressure. And that's been my career. It's trying to bring more and more of the beauty and the art and the poise and the stillness and the ning into the ring with me, because unless you can do it under pressure, you can't do it. You don't have shit. So I was really disappointed that I couldn't do it under that pressure, because I actually, some of the things that I do with Yod Kunpan, I do under way more pressure than any of my opponents could ever put on me. He's so intense. But mentally it's a different pressure when you get in the ring. Yod Kunpan's a man, so he fights me like a man. I fight women, and they don't fight the same as men, especially because I'm really strong and I'm a Muay Khao fighter. A lot of my opponents just run from me. They just run backwards, and so that's not how Yod Kunpan spars me. So the ways that I keep my distance with him are way different than how I have to try to create that distance and keep that distance with an actual opponent of mine. So I was super disappointed in this fight, and wanted to get back into training straight away to kind of like not work on those things, but like continue with those things. Be like, okay, so I went and tested this in a fight and I'm not able to stay at the range that I want to be at. Let's focus more on that. I got sidelined hard sparring this morning by how physically and emotionally difficult it was. I went hard into like feeling bad about myself pouting mode, which I have lots of practice in. I don't need to practice that more. I actually need to practice how to get out of that. So, it's one of those things where, like, you think you're going to go to the gym and work on something and you end up working on something entirely else. I thought I was going to go work on my distance, and because my distance was still the way it was in the fight, I ended up needing to work on my fucking attitude the entire hour, which is rough, because the mind is so strong, it's so incredible. It is such a hard thing to train. Like, I will run 100 stairs if you ask me to, but if you're like, get in a better mood, it's so much harder. It's like crazy hard. So yeah, it's one of these things where it's like, it's never ending, the things that I'm working on. And I was thinking about this as I was just at my afternoon training session, where I did better than I did in the morning. It's completely different training. Like, it's not the same thing at all. It's just basically hooks for like an hour. It's like a lot of punching. But it's still working on distance and working on power and kind of like the footwork coming with the body and things like this. Things that, like, I'm kind of cheating my way to solving problems in Muay Thai by focusing on certain elements and certain aspects and things like that. But I was thinking about this kind of like difficulty or realization I've been having, which is, if you have ever heard this, like, mathematically speaking, if you have two people on a couch and they each move half the distance each time moving towards each other, mathematically speaking, they will never meet. It's kind of like that in terms of like what you're trying to do when you're trying to reach really high levels in anything, in art, in mastership, in expression, and things like this, is that, like, you have a 1 through 10 scale, right? 1 through 9 is like steps. Like, you can get 1 through 9. Getting from 9 to 10 is like infinite. It's like that constantly moving, like a half step where you're actually never going to reach it. If you're like, it's between 9 and 10, people are like 9, and you're like, no, between 9 and 10, and they're like 10. You're like, no, between 9 and 10. It's infinite between those two, and that's where I'm stuck right now, is I'm just constantly trying to inch my way, or like half my way towards 10 all the time, and it's just, I have to come to terms with the fact that I'm never going to reach it, but by keeping moving in halves each time, you get closer to it, you know? Like, you can only move forward, you can only get better. It's crazy, because this morning I basically felt like I had time traveled back into, like, habits that I have and failures and weaknesses that I had, like, many months ago. And you take them with you. You don't actually, like, get over that stuff. You have them with you all the time. You've just kind of painted over it. So it's like how at, like, certain times of day the light hits the wall and you can see, like, the paint under it kind of thing. It's a little bit like that. But if you keep adding layers of paint, you keep letting new snow fall so that you can wear new grooves kind of thing. It's one of those things. And it's frustrating, but at the same time, I've been here before. Like, I've been working on this the entire time. You just kind of change what segment you're working on. You're just rearranging things all the time, and, like, I don't know that I'll ever be satisfied with myself. I'm never going to be like, oh my god, I'm totally the fighter I want to be now. I don't think that ever happens. But you get closer to it. Like, you get better at things, and your eyes change, and so you become more critical of things. We had this really weird experience in that I was super disappointed in myself after the fight, because it felt like I fought the same as I had 9 months ago, 8 months ago. And Kevin was kind of with me. Like, he knows what I'm working on, and he knows kind of what my frustrations are and the things that I kind of, like, get hung up on. And so he kind of felt sympathy or kind of, like, empathy with me in terms of, like, what the fight felt like. But then watching it, like, actually watching it after on video, it looked much better than it felt. And then watching the video that was shot for Channel 5 looked even more so. Like, you can see all the little changes that I made. Kevin sees more of them than I do, but I'm more critical than Kevin is myself all the time. So, I'm trying to give myself credit for the changes that I have made, but I'm also trying to keep myself honest about the changes that I really want to make. Like, I really want to feel the kinds of dominance and aggression and balance that I have glimmers of under the intense pressure of my training with Yodkun Pan. I want to have those in the ring. And so I'm not satisfied with not having them. Because even if I only have like a snippet of it, even if I only have like 20 seconds of it within an hour of training with Yodkun Pan once during the whole week, rather than even every day in the week, that should be able to come into the ring with me. It really, really should. But here's the crazy thing. I have to actually mentally give myself permission to feel and see that. Like, I can actually be doing exactly the same things that I'm doing with Yodkun Pan, but if I don't let myself feel it, like if I don't acknowledge it, then I'll literally never feel it. I'll literally never have it with me in the ring. So the physical and mental transformations that are required for me to keep getting better, the mental part's much harder. But I think it's also much more permanent. Like, physically you can lose stamina or you can lose strength fairly quickly. Mentally, I don't think so. I think mentally you keep things much longer. And then there's something in between. It's like partially physical and partially mental. There's like this razor line between the two, which is what Kevin and I called callus. Calluses are like your ability to handle pain or pressure or intensity in the ring, and you only get that from like keeping on it. Like, if you have, it's what people might call ring rust. You know, like if you're out for 7 months and you have ring rust or something, and you're like, oh, I'm not ready for this stuff. That's calluses. That's really calluses. I didn't feel like I had ring rust or anything like that. I've been working really, really hard in the past 7 months. But I think that like sliver between the mental and the physical is what calluses are. And because I'm working so much on those, if I can like really get my mind right, that part will stay more cemented, and then the physical part will just kind of like come and go and find its way. So that's my seated rambling vlog for my first day back at training after my first fight, after 7 months of not being able to fight because of COVID. I'm very happy to be fighting again. I don't know when my next one is, but I am talking to people already in terms of putting the word out that I want to be fighting and things like that. And yeah, I'm grateful for the small changes that are there, working hard to be able to see them myself. And thank you everyone who's like following along with me in these changes that I'm trying to make and in this process that's so fucking hard. It's so hard. And it never stops being hard, which is just crazy. But yeah, talk to you soon. Sylvia out.